The movie begins with a very dangerous man roaming around an entire floor, holding a sharp weapon in his hand. Right below that floor, a couple is hiding. They're terrified after witnessing their friends' deaths and are desperately trying to stay alive. The killer has already brutally murdered the rest of their group, making the situation even more intense and deadly. After hiding for a while, the boy realizes that staying hidden isn't a long-term solution. So, he decides to step out and look for help, a risky but necessary move. Slowly, he comes out and starts moving toward the door. But just as he gets closer, the killer suddenly attacks him in a shocking moment. Before the boy can even react, the killer slashes his neck and throws his severed head toward the girl. Seeing this, the girl screams in terror as she realizes her life is now in danger too. She immediately tries to run away, but she doesn't get far. The killer catches her and kills her as well, turning the entire scene into a tragic ending. After this, the story shifts, and we're introduced to Jason, Natasha, and Mac, a couple and their friend, who are planning a trip together. That's when Mac suggests an interesting but slightly creepy idea. They should visit Charlie's farm, a place considered one of the scariest locations in the world. He explains that a family once lived there who were cannibals. They used to kill and eat people, which creates a dark and disturbing backstory. When the townspeople found out the truth, they came together and wiped out the entire family in an act of revenge. Since then, the 1,000-acre farm has been completely abandoned, making it even more mysterious and terrifying. In the end, Mac jokingly says that camping there could turn into the scariest and most unforgettable trip of their lives. Jason finds the idea exciting, which builds suspense for what's coming next. However, he tells Mac not to tell anyone about the plan yet, especially the girls. He insists that the real destination should be kept a secret until they reach it. Later, Jason talks to Natasha about the trip. She likes the idea and immediately calls her friend Melanie, inviting her to join them. The next morning, Melanie arrives with her bags. During this time, Mac starts playfully flirting with her, and interestingly, she seems to enjoy his fun and humorous personality. After that, the four of them hop into a Jeep and set off on their trip. The journey is long but filled with laughter and jokes as they continue driving forward. After driving for nearly 8 hours, Jason explains that because they made several stops along the way, they're still a bit far from their destination. So, the group decides to stop at a pub, hoping Charlie can figure out the exact location of the farm since none of them really knows where it is. Once inside the pub, Max starts asking around about the area and the farm. That's when he notices an old man named Blue sitting with his friend Fred. Mac approaches them and starts a conversation. But the moment he mentions Charlie's farm, Blue's expression suddenly changes, and the atmosphere instantly becomes tense. In a firm voice, Blue says that no one should ever go to that place. He reveals that years ago, he went there himself with his friends, and what he saw that day is something he could never forget. Hearing this makes the situation even more serious. Just then, Jason notices Natasha, who has been listening very carefully to their entire conversation. Realizing this, Jason wisely decides to end the discussion right there. He quickly tells his friends that it's time to leave, and they all step out of the pub together. But by now, both girls have realized that something is being hidden from them. This leads to an argument in the parking lot. Meanwhile, Max starts making fun of Blue's fear. Seeing this, Fred steps in to defend his friend. He explains that Blue didn't react like that for no reason. He was actually present when those horrific crimes took place at Charlie's farm. Hearing this only makes Mac more excited, and now he's even more eager to go there. Fred then warns him that if he's truly smart, he should turn back right now instead of taking his friends to such a dangerous place. But Mac just laughs it off. At this point, Fred loses his patience. In anger, he gives them directions to Charlie's farm and tells them that if they care so little about their lives, they should go and see for themselves how dangerous that place really is. According to the address Fred gave them, the farm is still quite far away. So, the group decides to spend the night camping under the open sky and head out in the morning. They light a fire and sit around it. During this time, Natasha once again refuses to go to Charlie's farm. She says that everyone they've talked to has described the place as extremely dangerous, so going there isn't a good idea. But Melanie sees it differently. She argues that if the place is really that scary and mysterious, then they should experience it for themselves. According to her, it's not right to fear a place without seeing it. And no matter what happens, she's determined to go to Charlie's farm. Right in the middle of the conversation, Max suddenly says that if everyone really wants to know the truth, he can tell them the full story of Charlie's farm, a story he heard when he was a kid. Mac begins, explaining that back in the 1980s, a couple named John and Meredith lived in that farmhouse with their son, Charlie. From the outside, they looked like a normal family. But in reality, they were extremely dangerous cannibals. It's said that they killed several workers on their farm and ate their flesh. Mac continues, saying that most of John's victims were young women. He would capture them, tie them to a bed, and subject them to horrific physical torture. After that, Meredith would kill them. And it didn't stop there. She would cook their flesh and feed it to Charlie. And Charlie would eat it willingly, almost eagerly. This is how the entire family secretly lived their brutal and savage life in that farmhouse for a long time. But when several farmers from the town started mysteriously disappearing, people began to suspect that this family was behind it. So one day, the townspeople decided to attack the farmhouse, and Blue was among them. By then, most of the town had already realized that the family were cannibals. They directly confronted John and demanded answers. But John flat out denied everything. Seeing this, Blue lost his temper and killed John right there in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Meredith took advantage of the chaos and escaped through the back of the house with her son Charlie. Although they managed to flee that day, no one ever saw them again. Since then, a rumor has spread that maybe Charlie is still alive somewhere. After hearing this terrifying story, Natasha is completely shaken and starts sweating with fear. But Mac tries to calm her down, saying it's probably just an old rumor, nothing more, so there's no need to be scared. Somehow, the night passes. The next morning, Jason calls his friend Tony to find out the exact route to Charlie's farm, since Tony knows that area well. But as soon as Tony hears where they're planning to go, he immediately warns Jason not to go there. However, Jason is determined. He keeps insisting until Tony finally gives in and shares the location. Still, even after giving the address, Tony gives them a serious warning to be extremely careful. After that, all four of them excitedly continue their journey, and before long, they reach near Charlie's farm. When they get there, they notice that the farm gate is locked, making it impossible to take the Jeep any further. So, they decide to leave the Jeep behind and continue on foot. After walking nearly 2 kilometers, they finally arrive at Charlie's farm. The farmhouse is in terrible condition, but despite that, the place excites them, and they quickly head inside. The interior is filthy and covered in dirt. While exploring the house, they suddenly notice a room with a locked door. This instantly sparks their curiosity, and they try to open it. After some effort, they finally manage to break it open. As soon as they step inside, they find an old teddy bear from Charlie's childhood. Melanie finds it really cute, so without thinking much, she decides to keep it with her. After that, all four of them continue exploring the house more thoroughly. Meanwhile, Jason enters another room in the house. As soon as he steps in, he notices dried bloodstains on the floor, which leaves him slightly shocked. In fact, this was the very room where a girl had once been brutally tortured. From here, the story takes us into the past. Back then, when the townspeople entered the house, they found the mutilated body of a girl in this same room. There were also several other dead bodies lying around in a decayed state, as if they had been there for years. When the townspeople couldn't find Meredith and Charlie, they began searching for them. Soon, they managed to capture Meredith, but Charlie was nowhere to be found. The truth was, Meredith had already hidden Charlie somewhere. When the people asked her about him, she lied and said that Charlie had died a year ago. The townspeople believed her lie and, in a fit of rage, killed Meredith as well. But in reality, Charlie wasn't dead. He was hiding nearby, watching everything happen. This entire horrifying story is being narrated by Mac to the others. Hearing this, the remaining 3 start to feel uneasy. However, Mac calms them down and says it's already late, so they should get some rest. Soon, all four of them go to sleep. But during the night, Melanie suddenly feels as if someone is standing in the middle of the room, staring directly at her. She assumes it's just a bad dream and goes back to sleep. Exhausted from the previous day's long journey, all four of them end up sleeping late into the next morning and only wake up in the afternoon. Just then, Mac glances out the window and notices two strangers approaching the house. They introduce themselves as Gordon and Elisa, explaining that they've come looking for their friends who arrived at this place weeks ago. In fact, these are the same friends we saw at the beginning of the story. Hearing this, Natasha invites them inside and even offers them breakfast. Gradually, everyone starts talking, and the atmosphere begins to feel a bit normal again. Meanwhile, Melanie remembers that she wanted to show Elisa her teddy bear. But when she opens her bag, she realizes it's missing. She suspects the guys might be playing a prank, but when she asks Jason and Mac, both of them swear they know nothing about it. Then Melanie tells everyone that she saw a strange figure standing in her room during the night. The others don't take her seriously and dismiss it as just a bad dream. After finishing breakfast, the group decides to explore the entire farm by splitting into pairs. They also agreed to meet back at the same place before evening. Mac heads out with Melanie. As they walk, Melanie suddenly notices a strange smell and mentions it to Mac. Soon, they spotted a deep pit nearby. Mac leans in to take a look, but because of the darkness, he can't see anything clearly. So they ignore it and move on. After walking a bit further, they come across a small lake. Tired and overheated, they decide to freshen up, so Mac and Melanie go for a swim. On the other side, Elisa and Gordon wander into an old bar. Outside a warehouse, Gordon finds an axe lying on the ground and picks it up to examine it. It looks dangerous, so Elisa tells him to leave it there. Then she leads him inside the warehouse. Inside, they find an old bed that looks like someone still sleeps there. But they have no idea that this is the very place where Charlie used to live. After looking around for a while, just as they are about to leave, someone suddenly attacks from behind. A heavy axe strikes Gordon straight in the chest, killing him instantly, and the attacker is none other than Charlie, who is still alive. Seeing this, Elisa panics. To save herself, she quickly shuts the door and hides in a corner of the warehouse. But Charlie breaks the door down and forces his way inside. It doesn't take long for him to find her. First, he knocks her unconscious, then lays her on the ground and brutally crushes her head under a tractor wheel, killing her instantly. After committing such a horrifying act, Charlie bursts into loud laughter, as if he's celebrating his victory. At the same time, in another part of the farm, Natasha and Jason wander around and end up near a bar. The moment Natasha sees the bar, she immediately says she doesn't want to go inside at all. But Jason laughs and mocks her fear, asking her to give him just 5 minutes. He promises that after 5 minutes, they'll leave right away. Meanwhile, Tony starts getting worried about his friends, so he heads straight toward Charlie's farm to check on them. At the same time, by the riverside, Mac and Melanie have grown closer than ever. Suddenly, Melanie notices a dangerous-looking man standing silently on top of a hill, staring straight at them. Seeing this, Mac gets furious because the man has ruined their private moment. Driven by anger, Mac starts walking straight toward him. Meanwhile, Melanie quickly gets out of the water, hurriedly putting on her dress, and softly tells Mac not to go too close to that stranger. But as always, Mac is overconfident. Without any fear, he walks right up to the man and begins mocking him. But in the very next moment, everything turns horrific. Without any warning, the man suddenly uses a sharp weapon to mutilate Mac, severing him in a brutal attack. As Mac collapses in unbearable pain, the attacker continues his savage assault, leaving him to die within moments. Witnessing this terrifying scene, Melanie is completely horrified and immediately runs toward the forest to save her life. But she can't escape Charlie. He quickly chases her down and catches her within seconds, throwing her to the ground. Then, in an extremely brutal manner, he attacks her and kills her. Meanwhile, at the other side of the farm, outside the bar, Natasha grows increasingly anxious while waiting. It's been more than 5 minutes since Jason went inside, but he still hasn't come out. Frustrated and worried, Natasha starts calling out his name again and again, but no one responds from inside. Meanwhile, Tony also reaches the main house of the farm and starts loudly calling out for Jason. On the other side, Natasha gathers her courage and decides to enter the barn on her own. Inside, it's pitch dark. She slowly steps forward, calling out Jason's name. Suddenly, Jason appears in front of her and immediately signals her to stay quiet. He quickly pulls Natasha under a table and whispers that they are not alone in the barn. Someone else is there with them. But Natasha starts to think Jason is just messing around again, playing another stupid prank. Frustrated, she begins speaking loudly. What she doesn't realize is that Charlie is actually inside the barn. Hearing her voice, Charlie starts moving toward them with heavy footsteps. Seeing this, Jason panics and quickly covers Natasha's mouth. As Charlie gets closer, Natasha finally realizes Jason was telling the truth, and both of them stay completely silent under the table. Charlie looks around for a while and almost finds them. But just then, Tony suddenly shows up. The moment Tony sees Charlie, he attacks him, and a brutal fight breaks out between the two. Seeing their chance, Natasha and Jason think about escaping, but Jason suddenly realizes that if they don't act now, their friend Tony could die. So he tells Natasha they need to help him. Gathering his courage, Jason suddenly jumps in and attacks Charlie. But Charlie is extremely dangerous and powerful. In the middle of the fight, he suddenly turns on Tony and viciously tears open his throat, killing him on the spot. After that, Charlie immediately moves toward Jason. Before Jason can even react, Charlie brutally slashes his throat and kills him as well. Now Natasha is completely alone. Still, she doesn't give up and tries to escape somehow. But Charlie is faster. Within moments, he catches up to her and knocks her unconscious. Sometime later, Natasha regains consciousness. As soon as she opens her eyes, she realizes her hands are tied with ropes. The place she's been locked in smells so horrifying that it's hard for her to even breathe. But Natasha doesn't lose hope. She steadies herself and slowly starts loosening the ropes around her hands. After a lot of effort, she finally manages to free herself. Then, using all her strength, she breaks the wooden bars of the cage and somehow gets out. As soon as she steps outside, she realizes the true source of that terrible smell. The place is filled with dead bodies, all in different stages of decay. Even after seeing such a terrifying place, Natasha doesn't lose her courage. As proof, she picks up a heart-shaped pendant necklace so she can later show it to the police and lead them back to this location. Soon after, she notices a staircase and quickly starts climbing it. But just as she's about to reach the top, she sees a moving shadow above her. That's when she realizes this path isn't safe, because Charlie is coming back the same way. Realizing the danger, Natasha immediately climbs back down and lies flat on the ground, pretending to be dead so Charlie won't notice her. It works. Charlie walks right past her. As soon as he's gone, Natasha gets up and starts climbing the stairs again. But suddenly, she nearly screams in fear when she sees a hand reaching out toward her. Moments later, she realizes it's not an enemy, it's Old Blue, who has come to save her. The two of them quickly try to escape and make their way to Blue's car. But just then, Charlie suddenly appears in front of them. Before they can react, Charlie swings his axe and brutally strikes Blue in the back. Blue collapses to the ground and dies within moments. Now Charlie's eyes lock onto Natasha, but this time, Natasha fights back. She quickly grabs Blue's gun from the ground and shoots Charlie, knocking him down. Thinking she's killed him, Natasha immediately runs toward a truck to escape. But suddenly, Charlie gets back up. He picks up the gun from the ground and drives it straight into Natasha's chest. The brutal attack drops Natasha to the ground, and within seconds, she dies on the spot. After that, Charlie lifts her lifeless body and slowly walks away, bringing this horrifying story to a chilling end. And with that haunting image, the movie comes to an end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.